Welcome back to Movie Recaper. If you love thrilling stories packed with speed, passion, and heart, you're in the right place. At the very beginning, we meet our hero, Sonny. Racing isn't just a hobby for him, it's his true passion. He lives for the adrenaline, the speed, and the challenge. Right now, he's in the middle of an intense racing game, pushing his car to the absolute limit. The competition is fierce. Other players try to block him, shove him off course, anything to slow him down. But Sonny, he's unstoppable. One by one, he overtakes them until there's only a single rival left standing in his way. They fight for the lead, neck and neck, until Sonny makes his move. He hits the accelerator, overtakes him, and secures the lead. Lap after lap, Sonny dominates the track. His team racks up points, and in the end, they win the match, all thanks to his fearless driving. But here's the thing. Sonny isn't chasing fame or recognition. Winning trophies doesn't excite him. The only thing he truly enjoys is driving. That's why, even after such a glorious win, he leaves the trophy behind and quietly says goodbye to his friends. Later, we see him at a laundry shop. He notices a poster announcing a massive desert race in Mexico. A driver is needed for the competition. Sonny looks at it carefully, but then shrugs it off. He's not interested. But fate has other plans. Just then, an old friend walks in. The race manager. They haven't seen each other in a long time, and the reunion is emotional. The manager pleads with Sonny, explaining his desperate situation. His Formula One team is on the brink of collapse. Once strong, the team can't even qualify in the top 10 anymore. If things go on like this, everything he built will fall apart. He tells Sonny, "You used to be a Formula One driver. You have the skill, the experience. You're the only one who can save my team." Sonny listens carefully. He doesn't give an answer right away, but he promises to think about it. Meanwhile, we meet another racer, JP, who is also part of the race manager's struggling team. JP drives the African single car, but it's clear he's fighting an uphill battle. Their cars are riddled with problems. This is where we're introduced to a talented young woman, a car designer. She inspects the vehicles, asking JP what's wrong. JP doesn't hold back. He lists out multiple flaws that could cost them the race. Determined, she rolls up her sleeves, ready to fix and redesign the cars to give her team a fighting chance. And then comes the big moment. Sonny arrives at the garage. Some people are shocked to see him, recognizing the legend instantly. Others don't even know who he is. But the one person who lights up with hope is the race manager. With Sonny's arrival, he finally believes his team might just stand a chance again. Sonny greets everyone, exchanges a few words, and without wasting time, slips behind the wheel of the racing car. The atmosphere shifts immediately. It feels like the comeback is about to begin. Even though Sonny has spent years driving old Afghan racing cars, this one is completely different. It's a modern, high-tech machine. But guess what? That doesn't stop him. With his sharp instincts and natural skill, he handles the car brilliantly. Sonny studies the track maps carefully, analyzing every curve and corner, then starts practicing with full focus. But during one of these tests, disaster strikes. The car crashes at a turn. Luckily, it's not a serious accident, but the car is badly damaged. Instead of panicking, Sonny calmly identifies the problem. He explains that the car struggles with high-speed turns. It simply refuses to bend, and that's why it crashed. The car designer nods, promising to fix it. Meanwhile, we shift to JP, who returns home to his mom. He's frustrated and weighed down by pressure. JP admits that his team isn't winning, the drivers are scattered, and now a new competitor, Sonny, has joined the team. Someone strong enough to rival him directly. He feels insecure and restless, but his mother comforts him. Don't worry. Just focus on yourself. Race with your heart. The important days are coming soon. Like every Formula One team, this team also needs two drivers. JP is the number one driver, while Sonny is placed as number two. Both of them carry the responsibility of bringing the team back to victory. Soon, the press conference begins. JP and Sonny face the media together. In front of the cameras, JP mocks Sonny, calling him an old man. But Sonny doesn't take offense. He stays calm, unbothered by the jab. Then the reporters turn their questions towards Sonny's past. One journalist bluntly reminds him of the terrible accident he had decades ago. After that crash, Sonny disappeared from the racing world for nearly 30 years. And now, suddenly, he has returned. Hearing this digs deep into Sonny's emotions. He feels hurt, leaves the conference quietly, and spends the entire night reflecting on his painful past. Those injuries of that moment which had once ended his career. The next morning, JP approaches him. He apologizes sincerely, admitting, "I shouldn't have called you an old man. I regret saying that." But Sonny, being who he is, doesn't let these things bother him. He brushes it off and keeps doing what he loves most, practicing, staying focused, living in his own world of racing. And then the big event begins, a 3-day race. The first day, Friday, is the warm-up stage, a normal race to kick things off. The second day is for qualifying. The driver who finishes first on Friday gets pole position, meaning their car starts at the very front. And of course, the driver who finishes last starts at the very back. Then comes the most important day, Sunday, the championship match. This is the moment every racer has been waiting for. All the teams line up, ready to fight for the title of champion. From each team, 2 drivers step forward, taking their positions on the track. The atmosphere is electric, the tension sky high. Before the race begins, the race manager introduces Sonny to one of his last remaining investors. With most investors having already abandoned the struggling team, this man is the only one still standing with them. The manager explains their situation nervously, but the investor calmly replies, "I still see something special in your team. I believe that very soon you'll rise again. That's why I continue to support you. I'm holding on to hope." Those words spark a flicker of determination in everyone. Now it's time. Engines roar, the countdown begins, and the race kicks off. Right from the start, Sonny faces a setback. His car is placed at the very last position on the grid. But as the lights turn green, the race explodes with action. The strategy is clear. In this format, one driver from each team pushes forward to chase the lead, while the second driver blocks the opponents and protects their teammate. It's not just about speed, it's about teamwork, precision, and flawless execution. As the laps go by, the heat of the track starts taking its toll. JP's tires overheat, forcing him to make a pit stop. Meanwhile, Sonny also pulls in to replace several parts of his car. Both pit stops cost them precious seconds, and in racing, even a millisecond can make the difference between glory and defeat. Despite the delays, both Sonny and JP fight their way back toward the front of the pack. The crowd is on edge, watching the 2 teammates inch closer to victory. But then, something goes wrong. Instead of focusing on the other competitors, Sonny and JP start battling each other. Lap after lap, they refuse to let one another pass. The rivalry takes over the teamwork. The tension builds, and then, boom, both cars collide, spinning off the track and crashing out of the championship. The disaster leaves everyone stunned. The race is over for them. JP explodes in frustration, yelling at Sonny, "Why did you try to compete with me? I'm the #1 driver. You're supposed to be second. You should have let me pass." The argument turns ugly as emotions boil over. And truthfully, JP isn't wrong. Sonny, as the second driver, should have followed team orders and let him through. Even the team owners step in, reminding Sonny of the racing principle. Sometimes winning isn't about personal glory. It's about discipline, teamwork, and strategy. After the crash, the mood in the team shifts. Everyone realizes one harsh truth. Without coordination and teamwork, there's no way they can win. Sonny himself feels terrible about what happened. Overwhelmed with guilt, he heads into the garage, lowers himself into a tub of cold water, and just lies there trying to calm his mind. The race manager walks in, clearly upset. He looks at Sonny and says, "You shouldn't have done that. You've ruined the car, and now I might lose my best driver too. If that happens, I'll have nothing left. Please, try to understand." Sonny, still calm, replies, "Don't worry, your driver still has a lot to learn. And I have to ask you something. Tell me, your car designer, is she married? Divorced? What's her story?" The race manager stares at him in disbelief. "What kind of question is that, my friend? This nonsense won't work here, okay?" And with that, he storms out, shaking his head. A little later, Sonny comes out and finds the car designer herself, the one who's been tirelessly fixing and improving their machine. He approaches her seriously and says, "I want to talk to you about something important. Can we meet at the coffee shop?" She agrees, and soon the 2 of them sit down across from each other. She leans forward and asks, "So what's this important thing you want to say?" Sonny looks her straight in the eye and tells her, "You need to redesign the car." She immediately pushes back. "Why would I do that? We work as a team. I don't make decisions behind anyone's back. And by the way, everyone is talking about you." The big question on everyone's lips is, why have you returned to Formula One now after all these years? She stands to leave, but turns once more and adds, "When you finish the race, then I'll listen to you." And with that, she walks away, leaving Sonny deep in thought. Meanwhile, both drivers throw themselves back into practice, each training in his own unique way. Soon, the team gathers for a meeting. Strategies are laid out, game plans discussed. The upcoming race isn't just any race. It's 52 laps around the track. That means 52 chances to prove themselves, 52 laps to climb to the very top. And then, the big moment arrives. The race begins. The roar of engines shakes the ground and the cars speed across the track like lightning. Both drivers, Sonny and JP, are pushing hard, performing brilliantly. At one point, Sonny pulls into the pit stop. His team prepares to change his tires, but this time, Sonny makes a bold choice. There are two options: hard tires that last longer but slow the car down, and soft tires that give incredible speed but wear out quickly. Without hesitation, Sonny chooses the soft tires. Because for him, it's not just about lasting the distance, it's about gaining that edge, that explosive speed, even if it comes at a risk. The owner was hesitant at first. He didn't want to risk it, but Sonny persisted. After repeated requests, they finally fitted soft tires on his car. With the new setup, Sonny took the car back onto the track, ready to push the limits. Lap after lap, the team begins to find their rhythm. With perfect coordination between Sonny and JP, they managed to qualify in the top 10. It's only the first round, but the team is ecstatic. Breaking into the top 10 earns them extra points and a much-needed morale boost. That night, Sonny visits the car designer. She smiles and tells him, "I've redesigned the car exactly as you suggested." Then she opens up about her personal story. "I've redesigned cars before, but when I shared my ideas with my husband, he didn't approve. Our marriage ended because of it. That's why I want to win this race, not just for the team, but for myself." The next round of qualifying begins. JP is holding his position in the top 10, while Sonny focuses on controlling the rest of the field, keeping other cars behind. Together, they push their team higher and higher, eventually climbing to 4th place. Just when it seems they're unstoppable, disaster strikes. JP's car flips during a sharp turn, tumbling far off the track. Flames burst from the vehicle. Sonny, right behind him, reacts instantly. He races forward, puts out the fire, and saves his teammate's life. JP's mom arrives at the scene, furious. "Because of you, my son's life was in danger. You were pushing him to do things he didn't want. Driving at such high speeds, it was reckless." Sonny calmly explains that he had warned JP to slow down and avoid risky maneuvers. JP simply didn't listen. Even so, Sonny apologizes sincerely to JP's mom, showing his respect and care. The team gathers, shaken but determined. Everyone starts discussing their next moves. "We're behind again, but we can't give up. There's still a race to win." Even after all the setbacks, Sonny remains determined. "We can still win this race," he says. "It's not too late. With the right coordination, every millisecond counts. If we gain just 100 milliseconds at the right moments, victory is ours." But there's a problem. JP is injured and cannot participate. That means Sonny must race alone. Undeterred, he takes the wheel, giving his all. With incredible skill, he consistently qualifies the team in the top 9. Soon, JP recovers and rejoins the track. But old habits die hard. Once again, both drivers start competing against each other instead of focusing on the team. In one heated moment, JP even hits Sonny's car, knocking him out of the race. Sonny storms in, furious. "Don't do this again. You only think about yourself, never the team. This is why we're losing. Our team could sink because of your selfishness. You need to focus on the whole team, not just yourself." The car designer overhears the argument and decides it's time to intervene. She calls both of them together and says firmly, "You two cannot keep fighting like this. If you compete against each other, the whole team suffers. You need to cooperate, or victory is impossible." To ease the tension, she even brings out a deck of cards. For hours, the three of them talk strategy, laugh, and play cards together. Slowly, trust and understanding begin to rebuild. After some time, JP's manager arrives and he leaves. Now, only Sonny and the car designer are left together. In this quiet moment, their connection deepens. They share laughter, stories, and long, meaningful conversations. Later that night, Sonny stands on the balcony, lost in thought. The car designer joins him and admits, "I still don't understand. Why did you come back to racing after all these years?" Sonny turns to her and asks, "What are you doing here?" She smiles softly and replies, "I want to prove myself to everyone, especially my ex-husband. I want to show that I have what it takes. I want our team to win, but I can't do it alone. You have to lead us to victory, and then I can prove myself too." Sonny opens up about his past as they stand on the balcony. "I was on the verge of becoming a champion driver," he begins, his voice heavy with emotion. "But then a terrible accident shattered everything. My bones were broken, my spine injured. I was bedridden for weeks. All my dreams gone in an instant. After that, I never stepped foot back into the world of racing. But deep down, I knew I still had the skill. That's why I returned." Before they can dwell too long, the race manager arrives, clearly concerned. He knows about the growing bond between Sonny and the car designer and quickly warns them. The game organizers are on their way. They've received information suggesting there's something wrong with our cars. They might seize them. The two protest immediately. We have all the documents. The cars comply fully with the rules. You can check everything yourself. The organizers insist. No, we must seize the cars. If any irregularities are found, we'll conduct a full survey. The team braces themselves, fearing that this could throw them off the race entirely. Fortunately, after inspection, it turns out everything is in order. The cars stay in their hands. Relief washes over the team, but the challenges aren't over yet. That night, the third qualifying round begins. Sonny drives brilliantly, pushing the limits of his redesigned car. But in his relentless pursuit of speed, disaster strikes once more. His car goes out of control, crashes, and Sonny suffers severe injuries. He's rushed to the hospital. The rescue manager meets him there, worry etched on his face. You've been injured badly before, and now again. I cannot risk your life. You will not participate in any future races. Sonny refuses to give up. No, you need me. I'll be fine. I'll help the team win. Trust me. But the manager is firm. No, you will not race here again. I will hire another driver. And with that, he leaves. Meanwhile, JP continues to practice tirelessly, determined to lead the team to victory. Sonny, now recovering from his injuries, prepares to leave the hospital, knowing that his journey is far from over. Just when things seemed uncertain, the same investor approaches Sonny with an offer. I'm making a deal for the race, and I want you to join my team. Leave your current team and come with me, he says. Sonny listens calmly and replies, I'll think about it, before letting him leave. Meanwhile, JP goes to his mom and admits the truth. When I had that accident, it was my fault, not Sonny's. He kept warning me not to drive so fast, but I didn't listen. Everything that happened was my mistake. His honesty makes JP's mom realize her own misunderstanding, and she finally understands Sonny's dedication and skill. Sunday arrives, the day of the championship race. The investor is present, hoping Sonny will join his new team and help secure their victory. But Sonny makes a bold choice. He returns to his old team, walking straight into the manager's office. Give me another chance. This time, I promise to make you win this race, he declares. The manager hesitates. I don't want to lose you. You've been injured so many times already. I don't want anything to happen to you. But Sonny is resolute. He remembers what the car designer said. No one else can make this team win except you. That is enough. The team agrees to welcome him back. Behind the scenes, the manager wonders who tipped off the organizers about the supposed car irregularities. Sonny knows the truth. It was none other than the investor trying to lure him away. Regardless, the team is united and Sonny is back where he belongs. The investor, seeing Sonny return to his old team, feels a sharp pang of disappointment. And now, the race begins. The championship is on the line, and both drivers have one goal: win at any cost. Sonny takes on the role of the second driver perfectly. He clears the way, blocks the opponents, and creates opportunities for JP to move ahead. Working together seamlessly, they combine speed, strategy, and skill. Lap after lap, their teamwork shines. Every maneuver, every overtake, every calculated block pushes them closer to the top. The race is far from over. Lap after lap, both drivers push their limits. They change tires, make split-second decisions, and constantly adjust their strategy. Sometimes the team slips to fourth place, sometimes climbs to second. But through it all, Sonny is constantly supporting JP, guiding him and ensuring the team stays in contention. During a short 28-minute break, Sonny's car collides briefly, but he's unharmed. Once the race resumes, Sonny gives JP clear instructions. Stay behind me. JP follows, and together their cars surge ahead, taking the lead. Then, disaster strikes for JP. The car he's competing against crashes and is out of the race. JP can no longer participate, leaving Sonny alone to carry the team. But Sonny rises to the occasion. He drives like the Sonny of 30 years ago, fast, fearless, and flawless. It's almost as if he's flying over the track. Cars trailing behind him can't keep up, and he surges ahead to secure the victory. The team celebrates wildly. This once underdog team, which had never even qualified for the top 10, has now won the championship for the first time, all thanks to Sonny's skill, determination, and teamwork. Yet, true to his nature, Sonny doesn't chase fame or the trophy. He quietly steps away from the cheering crowd and finds a corner to sit alone. The car designer, worried and searching for him, finally finds Sonny at their usual meeting spot. Joy lights up her face. Sonny smiles and says, I want to tell you how I feel, but in a different way. I'll see you again very soon. With that, he bids farewell and leaves. Sometime later, Sonny arrives at the desert of Mexico, where a new race is about to take place. He approaches a man who says, I need a driver, but have you ever driven a car before today? Sonny laughs and replies confidently, "No, I haven't driven before, but I'm a perfect driver. I'll drive this car like no one else." The man agrees, choosing Sonny as his driver. With that, it's clear Sonny's journey continues, and he's destined to become a champion, making his mark in the racing world. His passion for driving, which has always been the core of who he is, will never fade. And with that, the story of this thrilling movie comes to a close.